How to get addicted to discipline, the science they never taught you. I used to be the person who set 4 alarms, wrote the plan on Sunday, felt ready, felt like this time was different. And by Tuesday, nothing. Not because I was lazy, not because I didn't want it enough. I just couldn't figure out why some people never seemed to fight themselves. They just did the work, every day, without the internal argument. Turns out, they weren't stronger. Their brain chemistry just worked differently. And the reason it worked differently wasn't luck. It was a process, a specific scientifically documented process that rewired how their brain releases dopamine, until discipline stopped being a fight and became something they actually craved. Today I'm going to show you that exact process. Real neuroscience, no motivational fluff. And by the end of this, you'll understand your own brain better than most people ever will. Step 1. Why discipline feels impossible. Here's what nobody tells you about willpower. It isn't a personality trait. It isn't something you either have or you don't. It's a resource. And it runs out. Your brain has 2 systems running at the same time, constantly competing. The first, let's call it the planning brain, the prefrontal cortex, right behind your forehead. This is the part that made the plan on Sunday. It thinks in months, in years, in who you want to become. The second, the feeling brain, the limbic system, much older, doesn't think about the future at all. It only cares about right now, what's comfortable right now, what feels easy right now. When that alarm goes off at 6 a.m., the planning brain says, get up, you have goals, you committed to this. The feeling brain says, you're warm, you're tired, nothing dangerous is happening, do not move. And most of the time, the feeling brain wins. Not because you're weak, because the feeling brain is faster, louder, and it's been running. That's not failure, that's just biology. Roy Baumeister, a psychologist who spent decades studying this, found something he called ego depletion. Your self-control works like a battery. Every time you resist something, every time you override how you feel and do what you planned, the battery loses charge. Full in the morning, nearly empty by evening. That's why you can wake up and make great choices, and then by 10 p.m. you've eaten the thing, watched the thing, said the thing you swore you wouldn't. The battery didn't fail. It just ran out. And here's the trap almost everyone falls into. They fail. They feel bad. They get motivated again. They plan harder, set more alarms, and they fail again, just with more guilt this time, because the strategy never changed. They were still trying to beat the feeling brain with willpower alone. And willpower runs out every single time. The people who seem to have infinite discipline, they stopped fighting the feeling brain a long time ago. They learned to work with it instead. And it all starts with dopamine, and a misunderstanding almost everyone has about what it actually does. Step 2. The dopamine science nobody explains. Ask anyone what dopamine is, and they'll say, the feel-good chemical. That's not wrong, but it's not the whole story. Dopamine is not pleasure. Dopamine is wanting. It's the drive towards something, the hunger before the meal, the pull you feel before you even have the thing. Pleasure, that's serotonin. Dopamine is the craving, the chase, the before. In the 1990s, a neuroscientist named Wolfram Schultz ran an experiment that changed how we understand the brain. He was studying monkeys. Simple setup. A light flashes, the monkey presses a lever, the monkey gets juice. At first, dopamine fired when the juice arrived at the reward. But as the pattern repeated, week after week, something shifted. The dopamine stopped firing at the juice. It started firing at the light, the signal, the cue, before anything. The signal, the cue, before anything even happened. The brain had learned the pattern so well it started releasing the craving chemical in pure anticipation. Now think about what that means for the person who wakes up at 5 a.m. and goes straight to the gym without a fight. They're not more disciplined than you. Their dopamine fires when the alarm goes off. Before the cold air, before the discomfort, before a single rep, their body is already in a state of wanting the workout. That's why it feels effortless to them. It's not character, it's chemistry, and chemistry, unlike motivation, doesn't expire. Now ask yourself honestly, what has your brain learned to crave? For most people, the phone, the feed, the next episode, not because they're bad people. Because those things delivered small dopamine hits consistently, repeatedly, for years, until the craving formed. Now the brain requests them the way it requests food. The work, the training, the studying, they haven't had that chance yet. They've mostly been associated with resistance and guilt, so your brain doesn't crave them yet. Step 3. The identity problem. Think about someone you know who's just consistent. They train, they study, they show up. And when you ask how they stay motivated, they look at you slightly confused. Because they're not motivated. They just don't think of it as optional. It's not what they do. It's who they are. That's the piece most discipline advice completely misses. In 2003, researchers ran a study before a local election. 2 groups. One simple question. Group 1. How important is it to you to vote? Group 2. How important is it to you to be a voter? One word different? One word different. The second group showed up to vote significantly more. Because once something becomes part of how you see yourself, you don't have to convince yourself to do it. Skipping starts to feel like a betrayal. James Clear put a framework around this in Atomic Habits. Most people try to change by chasing outcomes. I want to get fit. I want to be more productive. And they work backwards. Plans, rules, tracking streaks. But outcomes are fragile. The moment life gets hard, the outcome feels far away and the behavior collapses. The most durable change starts at identity. Not, I want to work out more. I am someone who trains. Not, I want to read more. I am someone who learns. Every time you show up, even for 15 minutes, even imperfectly, you cast a vote for that identity. Over time, those votes stack up. The identity solidifies, and once it does, skipping doesn't just feel uncomfortable. It feels like lying about who you are. That's the foundation. Now let's build the actual loop. Step 4. The 3 parts that build the addiction loop. Everything so far, the dopamine science, the identity shift. This is where it becomes something real you can use starting today. 3 parts. Each one builds on the last. Part 1. The anchor, the biggest mistake people make is trying to build new habits from nothing. Wake up and study. Wake up and train. Wake up and journal and plan the whole week. Your brain immediately generates resistance because there's no existing pull. Instead, find something you already do every single day without thinking. Make coffee. Brush your teeth. Sit down at your desk. That's your anchor. Attach the new habit directly after it. 2 minutes after coffee, you open the book. Right after brushing your teeth, 10 minutes of movement. B.J. Fogg at Stanford's Behavior Design Lab found that new behaviors form far more reliably when linked to existing ones. The existing habit already has a groove worn into your brain, a cue, a routine, a reward built in. You're borrowing that groove. Instead of starting from zero, you're already in motion. Part 2. The compression. Start smaller than feels worth it. Not 1 hour of studying. 5 minutes. Not a full workout. Just put on the shoes and step outside. Not finishing the chapter. Just open the book. I know, it feels like cheating, but your brain doesn't resist the habit. It resists the activation energy to start. Study for 2 hours. The feeling brain braces for impact. Open the laptop and read 1 page. The feeling brain finds nothing to fight. And almost every time, once you've started, you keep going. Because starting was the only real barrier. Your only job at the beginning is to make starting so small it feels almost embarrassing. That's how you get past the part that always stopped you before. Part 3, the dopamine bridge. Immediately after the small action, celebrate it. Internally. Not for how long you went. Not for the result. Just for showing up. This sounds soft. It isn't. This is about timing a dopamine release at the exact moment of action, so your brain starts building the association. This thing I just did equals reward. Remember Schultz's monkeys? The dopamine signal attaches to whatever consistently happened before the reward. Sit down to work. Feel good. The brain starts connecting sitting down with reward. Do it enough times and the craving forms. Eventually the dopamine fires before you even begin. Philippa Lally at University College London studied real habit formation. Not the 2-1-day myth. The real average is 66 days. 2 months of consistent anchoring, compression, and reward. After that, the loop runs itself. Before we finish, I want to ask you something. And I actually want you to... And I actually want you to answer in the comments. Which part of this loop is where you always break down? The anchor, you never build the trigger? The compression, you start too big and collapse? Or the dopamine bridge, you do the work but never let yourself feel good about it? Drop it below. 1 word is enough, because the second you name it, you've already started fixing it. Okay, final step. Step 5. What it actually feels like when discipline becomes an addiction. I want to paint a picture, not a technique, not another framework, just what it actually feels like when the loop is fully formed. Because most people grind through this process without anyone ever describing what's waiting on the other side. When discipline becomes automatic, missing it feels physically off. Not guilt, not disappointment. Like something is missing from the day, the way you'd feel if you forgot to eat. A low-grade wrongness that sits with you until you address it. The workout isn't something you negotiate about anymore. Your body asks for it the same way it asks for sleep. The study session isn't a chore you force yourself through. It's the part of the day that feels most like you. Andrew Huberman, neuroscientist at Stanford, talks about how once this shift happens, dopamine starts releasing not just before the habit, but during the effort itself. The friction becomes the signal. The resistance stops feeling like a cost. It starts feeling like the point. Like the discomfort is exactly where you're supposed to be. And then something else happens. Something nobody warns you about. Your phone stops pulling you the same way. Not because you have more willpower, because once your brain is getting real dopamine from real work, the cheap dopamine from scrolling starts to feel thin. Like junk food after a real meal. You can still have it. It just isn't what your system is asking for anymore. Ready. That is just what the brain does when you run the right process long enough. The biology isn't on your side right now. But biology can change. Neural pathways can be built. The dopamine loop can be rewired. You know how it works now. You know the steps. The only thing left is to start. Not Monday. Today. Outro. Before you close this, drop a comment. Tell me which step you're starting with today. Not because it helps the algorithm, because the moment you write it down, you've made a decision. And that decision, that one small vote, is how the identity starts.